Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 4th, 2024 meeting of the Stillwater City Council. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask the Trail Life USA Troop to come up and lead us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
All right. Camera one. Turn up the other volumes. I should have mentioned real quick.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you guys want to take a picture real quick?
Is it not on camera?
Would you like to take a picture? We do pictures here.
Thank you.
The banner, just right over here.
So it's not to the TV.
Good job, guys. Best pledges
We need the short guys in the front. We need the shorter guys in the front.
Oh.
Is not some more of this?
Be careful.
Go to the right a little bit.
No injuries.
All right, right there.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3, proclamations and presentations. We have several proclamations and presentations tonight. I'll start with National Safe Place Week. Angie Freeney from Payne County
Camera 4.
Health Services. Is she here? I don't see her, but I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas youth need a safe haven from various negative influence, such as child abuse, substance abuse, depression, and crime, and youth need available resources to assist them when faced with circumstances that can compromise their safety. And whereas the Safe Place program is committed to protecting the youth of Stillwater by offering access to immediate help and safety for young people seeking assistance and guidance. And whereas designated locations where youth can get information and immediate help, Safe Place is found at businesses such as restaurants, convenience stores, movie theaters, and community buildings, such as fire stations, libraries, and public transportation vehicles. And whereas the success of Safe Place is based on public-private collaborations between businesses, school systems, fire departments, law enforcement, and a network of volunteers. And whereas Stillwater is committed to demonstrate the importance of youth safety, prevention, and community responses to identified needs. And whereas the Safe Place program must meet performance standards relative to outreach and community relations to receive direct federal assistance as set forth in the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act. And whereas increased awareness will encourage more communities to establish Safe Place locations where youth can readily access the help they need. Now, therefore, I, Amy Jaloski, Vice Mayor of Stillwater, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the week of March 17th through the 23rd, 2024 as the Safe Place Week. She's not here, so we'll just save this for her. Okay. Also on the agenda today, in presentations and proclamations, we have Carol Anderson here to speak to us about Sunshine Week pledge cards.
We don't need a proclamation, but we have some signs to remind you. March is the month for Sunshine Week. Sunshine Week is always the week that has the anniversary of James Madison's birthday. Now, he was the fourth president of the United States, but he was also instrumental in the writing of the Constitution, and we know him particularly for his 10 amendments. Now, I actually wrote 19, but 10 were eventually passed. The first one is what we're working on this time. The freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And that was back in 1791. However, it wasn't until the 1900s that the Freedom of Information Act went in that said there should be freedom for any citizen, anyone to ask to see records, papers. Oklahoma has an open meetings, open records law also. And I'm sure some of you have, most of you probably, have looked at that law and know its requirements for it. So we like to celebrate it as each year. We represent the Stillwater League of Women Voters, and these are members that are with me today. It's been 50 years since that Information Act, but still we have problems. Watch the Oklahoman, the Tulsa World, and you'll see occasionally coming through questions about it. So you have signed a pledge that says you're going to obey the law as well as the spirit of the law. And I know of no case in which you haven't. Congratulations for that. And we thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for being here. I know I've got my pledge here signed. If you
Okay.
want to
All right.
take those, do you want to do a picture?
Yeah. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Last but not least, we want to honor the Stillwater Police Department Citizens Academy class this evening. Lieutenant Lau, I think you have some words for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let them all pile in. There's 17. We're missing a few tonight for sickness and whatnot. All right. So thank you guys for having us here tonight. I also want to thank our administration for allowing us to continue this program. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to do this. Today we have Captain Stevens in the back and then Assistant Chief Jordan. Also want to thank the officers. There are several that are not here tonight that helped make this class possible as well. So I know some of you have been through our Citizens Academy and known the kind of stress and the volunteer experience that these guys got to put on to show you guys what we do on a daily basis. So thank you guys, all the officers for helping. So like I said, this is our 9th class that we've had this program going on. It's one of the best classes. They're telling me I need to speak them up. We've met the last 6 weeks on a Tuesday night from 5:30 to 8:30, sometimes later. Just depends on what we had, what kind of questions they had. So some nights it carried on a little bit longer. Every year we've tried to make it a different experience, more enjoyable rather than a death by PowerPoint. This year we kind of introduced them to some new things. We actually, one of the nights we went to Meridian Technology. They have a criminal justice program out there. Les Little, retired Stillwater cop, running that program really well. They allowed us to come out and actually do a mock crime scene. So at the end of the night, they had to go out there and try to figure out what happened at the crime scene. It was hilarious because they had no experience and they completely messed it up, but they worked through it pretty well. So it was fun. It was very enjoyable. So like I said, 6 nights of it, and then we ended on the Saturday, just last Saturday, with a half a day at the range. They got to go out and shoot some guns if they wanted to, or just to observe what our officers carry, what our snipers do. So they actually got to go out and do that with them for a little bit. And then the other half of the day was spent here at the PD, putting them through scenarios, stuff that we would do, like a traffic stop, building search, the use of force simulator that was purchased several years ago that our officers train on a daily basis. So it's really neat that they got to use that as well. We got to participate in a ride along. We kind of changed it up this year. It used to be on evening shift because that's when all the action happens. But if you notice lately, it seems like day shifts getting into a lot of activity lately. It's a safe community. And I would agree that they think so as well, because they got to ride on different shifts, and some of them got to ride overnights and rode all night till 7:30 in the morning, and some of them came in and worked on a day shift on a Friday morning where may not have done much except for a couple traffic stops. But like I said, the intent of this program is not to train citizens to become police officers. So you guys are not certified police officers, but it's to show the participants firsthand of what we do on a daily basis. They get to go through some of our mental health training that we kind of work with our officers, some of our peer support program. That way we're in a high stress situation or incident. We have a team that comes out and they'll talk with our officers. So it's very eye-opening for them that they get to see that we have that program for our guys. So like I said, Class 9, appreciate you guys. Like I said, you guys done it, and hope it was enjoyable for you as much as it was for us. So thank you guys for having us tonight.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to say, I think our community's ability to solve challenges is really based on our engagement with each other. And so I really appreciate and value the time that you all took as citizens to engage with the police department, and obviously you all as officers taking the time to engage in this type of community outreach. I think we always come to better solutions when we know each other better, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken to do that.
Thank you guys.
Do you guys want a picture?
Amy, we need a picture.
I don't know if I need to be in that picture, but I'm happy to.
Go on.
They need give them just a moment to exit. Okay, counselors, this brings us to item 4, the consent docket. Is there any discussion, questions, or motions on the consent docket?
I move approval of the consent docket.
Second.
We have a we have approval and a second for the consent docket. Counselors, please vote.
It's a move 4 to 0.
Got it. With a vote of 4 to 0, the consent docket is approved. This takes us to item 5, public comment on items not scheduled for public hearing. I do have one person signed up to speak, or it's Scott Gilliland is still. Okay, so you no longer wish to speak. Okay, then we will Move to item 7, general orders. Item 7A is discussion and update regarding the site selection for the proposed new Stillwater Animal Welfare Facility. I think we have Dawn and Candy.
I would like to share that currently the sound is not working with our YouTube, so we are recording it in the other room, and then we will sync the sound with our video as much as possible afterwards. We're having major technical issues, and everyone's in there trying to fix it, so.
Thanks for the update.
After the January 8th City Council meeting, staff regrouped to discuss community concerns regarding the proposed site for the future animal welfare facility. At the January 22nd City Council meeting, management requested that council not take action to allow time for staff to meet with the nearby neighborhood and time for continued evaluation of the proposed site and to reassess city-owned properties. On January 25th, staff met with many members of the neighborhood and other community members. If you were there with us, I will just reiterate, it was an open, respectful, honest, and productive discussion. Since that time, the animal welfare staff team met and worked through reassessing all city-owned properties and even pursued some properties not owned by the city, but that we thought would be a possibility. Our team also established criteria for the site based on advisement from city management, engineering, architect, Stillwater Animal Welfare staff, and other members. Candy Starring, our engineering director, worked closely with her staff and IT to sort through the more than 130 city-owned properties to determine viable properties utilizing the criteria our team developed. Candy is here to join us and explain the process of how we reassessed and evaluated potential sites. Maybe. Doesn't it just happen whenever? No, go to slideshow. It's like. So. You go to open up over there. And then later. You're good.
Good evening. Candy Starring with the engineering department. The engineering department was asked to help with the site selection process and do a long list that was very transparent and very kind of makes it simplified in a way to show the public how we looked for this site. You have in your handouts a PDF with 4 columns of the abbreviated version of our criteria filtering process, and you have some maps. So what I'm going to do this evening is take you through the process that we followed and let you ask questions if you have them, and we'll land on a site at the end. Most site selection or any kind of selection processes in engineering deal with a long list and a short list. And so there's criteria on the long list that are more or less hard-nosed. In other words, why look at it? Why compare it to other sites? Because it's going to be automatically not usable. And so we did the same thing. Our long list developed these 6 criteria to call those, they're hard-nosed, we're not going to even look at them. That was, first of all, it needed to be city-owned, although there were a couple of exceptions that Dawn just talked about. Greater than 2.5 acres, based on the architect telling us that the site was about 2.3. No city parks with restrictions. No utilized city facilities where there's already a city facility on the property using the land or could use it in the future for expansion or a different mission. No floodplains or detention basins, and our 6th one, which was a bit subjective, and I'll talk about that when I get there, is no properties bordering residential areas. So we used GIS, which is a fantastic tool, and Roy Hayden, one of our engineering techs, helped me through this. Our GIS shows 132 properties. When we check Payne County, it shows more. But when we look at the differences, we can see what they are and understand why they're not going to suit this long list. So we just eliminated it from the conversation, and we start with this 132. As I go from slide to slide, you'll be able to train your eyes on the map, and you'll see the reduction of properties the properties are getting smaller and smaller. So when I go from map 1 to map 2, you'll see a lot fall off. This is the criteria for all properties greater than 2.5 acres. When you look at your list, every time we go through one of these criteria, we ask ourselves the question, is this the right criteria, or are we missing something like 2 properties next to each other that might add up to make 2.5? So you'll see in your list where we looked at the ones greater than 2 and less than 2.5, those are coded blue under your site name column, and we check those just to make sure. But in the end, this was what remained after all sites were eliminated. And I didn't mention Lake McMurtry either. Lake McMurtry is in Noble County. It's north and west of here, and it's not on this map because it's too far outside of the limits here. And the third criteria was looking at city parks with restrictions. And on this one, we eliminated even more properties and ended up with 26. Lake McMurtry is in Noble County, and although there's no specific deed restrictions, it was acquired through condemnation, and it was for very specific reasons, which are for the purpose of water supply reservoir. So should we decide to use it, number one, it's way out, but based on our restrictions, we probably would be facing court battles or objections because the use is not the same. So we eliminated that.
While you're here, could you talk about the restrictions on the other properties? What type of restrictions?
So a lot of our parks were acquired with land and water conservation funds. Some of them were acquired through donations, like just a family deciding to donate property. And when they do that, they say, we're going to donate this to you, but you're only ever going to use it for this particular purpose, maybe outside public recreation, or no mechanized equipment ever on this property for any project whatsoever. Or with land and water conservation, we get grants to build these components on the park. And then even if it's the smallest grant, they now have deed restrictions on the entire parcel to say, thou shalt never use this for anything. And if other than what we're telling you, and if you do decide to do that, we are going to have you replace this park value for value with another park, which is what we're facing at Lake Sanborn with the Airport Terminal Road expansion. Does that help?
Thank you.
So that gets us to 26 properties remaining after city park restrictions are removed. And our fourth filter, criterion applied, anything that was already had an existing city facility on it and using it. And when we go from map 3 to map 4, we have 10 properties remaining when we take off those city facilities. At this point, we looked at that airport property and we separated that large piece that remains. I'm going to flip back and forth through these maps from the much larger airport area because the airport map shows properties in that smaller parcel to be developable. So we separated that out, and there was a particular site there that was east of waste management that has been looked at in the past by city management for use as the waste management recycling facility. So we kept that one on the list. We are now at 10 properties remaining, and we go from map 4 to map 5, which excludes floodplain and detention basins. There's a lot of just adjacent to residential areas. They're not in the floodplain, but they are detention basins that serve to control flood discharge from a site. And so when we take those off, there's these 3 properties. So this is where we got a little subjective when we looked at these properties, and I'm going to take you to map 6, which is when one property remains, but the next one is an aerial, so you can see what we saw when we looked at these 3 remaining properties on a map. So site 1 in the top right is the Knobloch Airport site that was selected previously, and it borders residential. Site 2 is the airport at Sanborn that is adjacent to waste management, really in between waste management and Lake Sanborn. And then site 3 is Lakeview and Western. And because of the runway protection zone, only the west half of that property is usable, so it would be right up against residential. So when we looked at this, we sent a pretty simple long list criteria that just said since we have these remaining, we'll do that doesn't border residential to do some pretty quick elimination and protect the interests of the homes here and the homes here. When this one, site 2, is, it's about 1,000 feet, 900 feet north of the residential property to the south and about 1,300 feet west of the residential property to the east. So definitely a good buffer between any noise pollution or lights that are created from the animal welfare facility to protect the interests of the current residential area. The other benefits of this site compared to the first site that we selected are that there's no compensatory storage needed here. We were going to do some pretty good civil grading and dirt work here to make accommodations for the floodplain. We don't have the clearing here. This helps better see it. We don't have the clearing here that we had at Site 1, and the distance of the build off of the main road shortens the extensions for water, sewer, and roads. So there's some engineering level benefits that we thought. We have also, Kelly Reed for us has submitted an application on a specific FAA form to start the clearance process for the heights that will be seen here. There was previously a batch plant at this site, which was far taller than anything that we'll see here. So we feel very positive about the outcome of that permit. So all in all, our long list process led us to this site, and this is the one we would recommend for the animal welfare facility. I'll pass it back to Dawn. Do you have any questions for me about the process?
I don't have a question about the process, but I have a question about that particular area of land. If we can,
Okay.
I know when we were talking about the other location, we talked about the possibility of having a dog park there. Do we have the space here? So on the map, it looks like a relatively big space. What's the?
5 or 6 acres.
Okay, so we would have enough space to actually put in a dog park there as well,
Yes.
if we so chose.
Yes.
And the only other thing I'm conscious of for this location is it is close to the airport, and is that a issue for the animals? And
I'm going to pass that off to Dawn.
okay.
To answer that question, we do have, thanks to Kelly Reed and Rachel Wasserman, there are other animal welfare facilities or humane societies, similar organizations that are near airports throughout the country. And so Kelly shared some of that list with us, and Rachel has contacted them, and she hasn't received any concerns so far. What she has received is positive feedback. It's helpful, increased security to have another municipal building, another city-owned building nearby, or increased security, and then also exposure for adoptions. As Candy has shared, that facility right there near this site is the waste management site. So we do have friends right there beside us, in addition to the airport. But from here, we are pretty excited about this site. Between the Fire Station 2, new Fire Station 2, Hargis Road reroute, a new terminal in the future, Sanborn Link nearby, and potential walking trails, the new Ray and Linda Booker OSU Flight Center right across the street. This could be a heavily utilized community resource. Again, I shared that about the other animal welfares near airports. But from here, we have scheduled an in-person community meeting on Tuesday, March 26th. That's at 5:30 p.m. at the Stillwater Community Center. And that's right there at the dining hall. And that is Tuesday, March 26th, 5:30 p.m. And then we have also scheduled an online virtual community meeting Thursday, March 28th at 5:30. And the reason that we went a virtual option is we're trying to give more options to hear back from community. We get busy lives. We completely understand that. Whatever information we can collect, we're going to consider it a bonus. We also have a Community Action Committee meeting on March 14th. I would ask that if community members would like to be part of this committee, that they just email me at Dawn, DAWN, Dodson, DODSON, at stillwaterok.gov. We plan to come back to council in April with feedback and a recommendation for this animal welfare facility to be located at this site, this new site. We will have community presentations and discussion throughout May to August. And at this time, our goal is to be on a ballot August 27th, 2024. All of this information, if not available right now, it will be tomorrow at stillwaterok.gov/animal welfare. Is there any questions that I may try to answer?
Dawn, in addition to the announcement here, for those meetings and opportunities to provide feedback, are you reaching out specifically to the neighborhood that's in proximity or the stakeholders in proximity to this new potential site?
Yeah, so there's two neighborhoods that are the one that is less right at 900 and then the one at 1300. So our plan is to try to reach out to some of those as much as we possibly can, and also on social, also on radio, also in news press ads, and just really blanket as much as we can to blast this meeting. Try to hear back.
I think it's a great opportunity not only for that part of our community to participate, but for the rest of our community to continue to participate about the siting and just the need.
And you're exactly right. And that's our thought process too, is, let's collectively get as many people as we can in here. And then let's all identify and be part of how do we want this space? What should this space do to meet the needs of our community now and 20 years from now?
All right, one more question.
Yes, sir.
Due to the proximity of this to the airport, this may go to Mrs. Reed, are there any future needs for this space? I mean, once we take this up to the animal welfare? Okay. She shakes her head no. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
I'd like to thank Dawn, you and the city staff and the engineering group that have been looking at all these properties. I'm sure that a significant amount of work to weed through all of that. So I wanted to thank you all. And I wanted to thank all the people from the neighborhood that are here again this evening, just for bringing this to our attention and making sure that we really thought through where we're going to locate this new facility.
And can I piggyback on that and say thank you to everyone on the Horseshoe, and Mayor's not here, and thank you to Brady for, he's really helped me through all of this too, and all of us, but also big thanks to the neighborhood and for speaking up and using their voice and respectfully and saying, hey, what about this? And asking those difficult questions because, as I've shared, we've had many conversations, and I'm pretty sure Bob is my new best friend, but, as we've said, we can, and I will own this every single day of my life, to be a lifelong learner, and I can always do better. And we came back to the table, and I appreciate Candy's leadership and expertise on leading that. And we got where we needed to be, I feel like. So thank you all.
Thank you. Counselors, any additional questions? Okay, so no action taken tonight. We'll
That's
just
right.
wait to hear back. Hopefully everyone has a chance to participate in those meetings.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. This takes us to item 7B, the award of contracts by Crossland Construction Company for Fire Station 2 work package number 2, totaling $4,243,162. Ms. Starring.
Good evening once again. Candy Starring, Engineering Department. I am here representing the fire department and many others tonight on the fire station project. Chief Esri is here to answer any questions you have for him. David Robinson is in the audience. He's our architect with BCI. He's here to answer any questions you have for the architect. Aaron Stoops is here. He's with Crossland, our construction manager at risk company, and he's going to do one of the slides on construction. So any of us can answer questions that you have for this evening. I'm ultimately tonight seeking approval of Crossland's award of the contracts for work package 2. On the way to get there for that request, I'm going to be talking a lot about history and a lot about where we've been and where we're landing with our budget. We do have a funding gap that I need to tell you about. So this vote happened in early 2022, and the voting residents of Stillwater approved this $9 million bond issue for relocation of the fire station. The vote was based on cost estimates that happened ahead of that. And in fact, during that period of time when we were having historic inflation and supply chain issues and costs were going crazy, and not only for us, but globally, nationwide and globally, the increases were beyond what any of us had ever experienced in our careers. And this inflation has rippled through our capital budgets too. We see it both in capital budgets, and the fire station has not been immune to this problem. So Chief Esri could tell you a story about where we started with the price per square foot when the prices were first put together and where we are now, and it's quite significant. And bottom line, we have about a $1 million funding gap between our IGMP and where the numbers are right now. So as I go through this evening's presentation, what we all have to keep in mind is the mission of this fire station. The building has to be a functional fire station that protects the health and safety of our public. The appealing look, the architectural elements, and the wants have to take second place to that mission. If any of you have ever seen a volunteer fire station, you understand what a mission really is. It is putting out the fire and having a place to store your trucks and things like that. So at a minimum, those are the minimum requirements there. So I ask you to consider that as we move forward and talk a little bit about this tonight. 28 trades were advertised for bid package 2. Of those 28, these 19 listed here are being proposed by Crossland to accept for work in work package 2. What you see here adds up to $4.2 million. That's not the CMAR adders. That's just the direct cost. That's cost straight from the subs. The alternates that are included in these costs are the ones listed in the top right, and those were advertised with the packages that we've selected from. And those include 5 removals, and that except the 350 kilowatt generator is actually a reduction over the other option, which was going to be accept a 300 watt generator plus a BMS system. So effectively, every one of those is a reduction. So other trades, of the 28, there was some that were not included, and that was because either we didn't receive a bid for them, like metal panels, or we received a bid that was too high, like the fire suppression trade, or we need to make some design changes to rebid to try to get some cost savings. Due to the bid prices exceeding our budget, staff have debated and are recommending to you removal of some of the non-mission critical items, like the entryway and the sunshade and things that are not necessarily critical to the mission of putting out fires. And there's other items too that Aaron and his team brought to us. So the items here in green were the 6 alternates that were presented in the top right box of the slide before. Most everything else here is Aaron's group coming up with ideas, and he's been putting cost to those. Some of them are pretty easy to say yes to, like delete skylights or change the windows above the bays. Some of them are not so easy to select, like replace the really, really nice metal panels that will always look great with EFIS panels that will not always look great and require a lot of maintenance. Or the $60,000 foundation change when staff are very focused on providing the building here that will last 100 years without any failures to foundation. So some of them are harder to select. I want to take you through, you can see some things here that we've said, yeah, we think we want to do those. And there's a lot of these that when we go to the construction estimate part of this, Aaron will be reducing the work package 2 trades by these amounts and converting this to contingency. But when we first execute work package 2, Aaron proposes we have 0 contingency. And so I'll explain that in a minute. So what I've asked David Robinson, you're feel free to come up and visit on these if you'd like to go through these. So I asked David, I think late on Friday, to give us some renderings of what this is going to look like with these changes, because what you're used to seeing is the top left you see the sunshade, which is the white shade over the left 2 bays, the entryway off in the distance, and then on the south side of the patio, the south side of the building is the really nice patio that the guys were going to use with infill and screening, and it was a nice outside private place. So if you'd like to take them through these.
Absolutely. So good to be with you. I will say for those on YouTube later, that's not YouTube, that's me. So we'll get through all this. All right, so on the upper left, you can see there's an aluminum sunshade. I will say it is more decorative. It's on the west. It is going to help some, but it was really to break up that large mass. That's about 49 grand, and that can be added at a later date. And then the punched windows are tough to see on this one, but there's a clear story where a window above the low bays on the left, the three doors. And so what that did is that helped, you kind of had the mass on the left and kind of the void on the right, but that did take a lot of steel to make that structurally work. So we are going to propose to go with some punch windows there. The entry, it is detached. It could be added at a later date. It was not attached to the building. We'd probably paint some stuff orange and kind of get some more interest at that opening now. But on that facade, you do still have the same function as Candy said, and it's hard for architects to admit that it's not about us. The building will still perform as designed. You will lose some of that relief in interest, but it can be added at a later date. And other. This one, the one way we in the schematic design phase, which is the first phase of the process, we did two schemes, and we tried to control costs from day one. And this plan was the result of getting some square foot out of it, and it became a very efficient box. And to help break that box down, we had this nice awning on the south side to allow the guys to work out on the east side and to relax on the west side and to watch the sunset. So the way it was designed, it was integral to the building. The way it would have to be put back, it would have to be a freestanding structure, but it could take a lot of forms at a later date. It doesn't have to look like that. It could be bigger, it could be smaller, but that is something that could be added, and would, if we don't have that now, I think we would take some of that concrete out, because that's going to be a little harsh, but I think there are ways to make that a little less harsh. So this is with it only a third removed, I mean two-thirds removed. That black bump out that you see there on the original scheme, that roof was actually from the shed roof that we've removed. So when we remove that now, it's got to have its own roof. So in this scheme, it's got its own roof, and we've kept the part of the screening that was at the patio. You can see it's a lot less interest in, but again, it is going to protect the citizens of Stillwater just the same. And that's with the two-thirds removed. This is the punched windows. again, with that clear story, to have that amount of glass to have the lateral forces of that wall contained, we had to do a lot of steel. This is what we would need to reduce that amount of steel. With that, we might play with some metal to gain some interest back. Yes, sir. And this is kind of the fly through of the original. And we'll stop it and show the next one here in a minute. And I would like to thank my team. My team got right on this, and I'm here taking credit for their work again because I'm an architect. So this is the one with those revisions made. Not reflected in this though is the overhead doors. I think that's the last slide. Any questions I can help with? Yes, sir.
So the windows, are those bay areas, are they going to be heated and air conditioned?
They would not be air conditioned. They will have a radiant tube heater system, but they don't have HVAC.
Okay, so the glass up there is going to add sunlight and heat the space to some extent, correct?
It will. We think with the height of them, it's not going to get a lot of direct. We've got a pretty good overhang, but yes, by its nature, it would add some heat.
Okay,
Yes.
and Candy mentioned something about foundation changes. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So the foundation, as designed, is on piers, and so those piers go down to bedrock. The geotechnical report did have two options. It did also have an option for a spread footing in which you do not go down to bedrock. Our preference is piers, just because of the longevity. Spread footings are done all the time. It is allowed by the report. But when looking at a 75 to 100 year building, it's really about risk management.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So Candy, with the weight of the vehicles that are going to be rolling in and out of there, are we comfortable moving away from piers?
That is a debated topic amongst internal folks.
I bet it is.
So, you know, what our job is to do is look after public's interest, and that's where this money is coming from. And if it was their home and they were building this substantial of a site with these heavy vehicles, how would they do it? We have a geotech report that tells us both are right. We can do it either way. We have an architect telling us if you have a 100-year facility and you want to withstand settlement and things that happen in the ground, the minor earthquakes that we experience, or something missed by the construction group when they build, the flaws that happen, human error, that it's going to be better to go with the better foundations. So we have the conflicting input, and we tend to err on the side of safety with our facilities. If we build 60,000 more with the deep foundations and it's a $8-point-something million fire station, it seems like it's a good value.
Well, I think so too. So are we is the recommendation going to be to not do the piers? Or
Right now, we have said, let's keep the deep foundation.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next slide is simply to show you where we are to date with the total project. We have our $9 million bond, gives us some interest over the years, and it effectively is a $9.3 million budget. So we did work package, this work package 2 that we're talking about you today, that's the 4.2 in direct costs. And when we add the adders in the table below, general conditions, direct project support, construction contingency, and CMAR, it comes to 5.1. That $0 contingency is what I described earlier, and Aaron will talk to you a little bit more about it on the next slide, that we're going to do some contingency modification is the word he used. To make sure we cover ourselves with contingency, we're going to do some savings, but we're also going to use that money to protect us on any changes during the work. And when we add to that number everything that we've been spending previous to this so far, we come up with the 7.4 so far costs out of the $9.3 million budget. This does not include the things that are coming, the G2 alert that we're buying, the FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures, and appliances, work package 3, and maybe 4, depending on where this goes. So that's just where we are. This next slide is about the construction cost. You all executed or approved execution of the IGMP previously, which were at 7.9 roughly million on our IGMP. We've so far converted to lump sum that first work package, which is 1.3. The second work package looks like it's going to be, after we do the adders, if you all agree with the award of these contracts, be about 5.1. And Crossland is estimating the third work package to be 2.4. And when we simply add all those up, we're at 8.9 million on a 7.9 million IGMP, so we're about $1 million over. So we're looking for savings, and when we look at some of these numbers, we're not certain we can even get that much savings. Trying to get the bond language to match the budget has been nearly impossible. And when we look at some of these numbers, we're wondering how we can do it, and Aaron's going to talk a little bit about that. But if funds are available to go with this, some of these items we could keep, but quite frankly, we have to have some more money to fill this gap that we're facing with this project.
Andy, could you clarify? I'm looking at work package 1 on this, and you have it at 1.3. The prior slide, didn't we say it was 2.3?
Well, work package 1 plus the architect plus the pre-construction
Okay.
services plus some gas line
Got it.
lowering, some other things.
Okay.
Are all 2.3 is that you can think of that as everything before work package 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So as I'm showing here, we have a significant funding gap, and we have been working, BCI, which is our architect, Crossland, the staff, we've been working trying to solve this. And it's just trying to meet the bond language. There's very specific bond language that we can't vary from, and we can't not meet the schedule with this bond. So like those two things are just not negotiable. We have to do both of them, and we can't stop. We have to move forward. So we really just have to work together here to find a way to either find funding or find cuts, whatever we need to do to make this keep moving. And that's why we're here tonight about the award of these contracts. We'll be back with the exhibits later, but right now I want Aaron to come up and talk a little bit about his perspective on the construction cost.
All right, next slide or this one? Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Stoops with Crossland Construction, Vice President for our Oklahoma City Division. OSU graduate. It's been a long time in the city, God's country in my mind, but so it's definitely a pleasure to be back here. We're doing some great work on the Block 34 project, and love to see that get going. But this project was delivered as with the CMAR delivery, which puts us in a position early on to get involvement with the design, start to gear design choices, give options, show early budgets, glimpse into what this could look like. We have been selected by city staff because we have built over 55 fire stations throughout the Midwest. Our cost data and our history on fire stations is tremendous. That's the most that we can pull from in this time. We can evaluate our market conditions that are coming up. Like Candy kind of mentioned earlier, it is beyond I think what we all could have ever conceived on what inflation has done to the market. In conjunction with that, we are competing. The workforce out there in Oklahoma right now, there's a ton of huge projects going on. Everybody's building. Municipalities across the board is building. So jockeying for good subcontractor input, subs who are going to give us the best price, subs who want to come to Stillwater from Oklahoma City or Tulsa, both in which we have locations in and deep subcontractor relationships in those markets, and have tried to bring everything we can to this project. So as a result, we have budgeted this project through this time. Bids have come in far more than we can imagine. We look at these bids, we look at to our historical 55 other fire stations that we built throughout Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Arkansas, you name it, and it's difficult to find those comparisons, and enough to tell us that it should cost X amount. So again, as Candy has mentioned, we have bid one work package to date. That was in an effort for schedule. So in that work package, you guys approved earthwork, utilities, things that can get our base pad done so that we can move on with things like concrete and stuff like that. This is a good byproduct of the CMAR delivery method and being able to put out early work packages, get to work a little bit sooner and meet those schedule requirements that you guys have. For what we have put together for work package 2, we have thoroughly vetted all of the bids. Any sub that we are presenting for work package 2 has been thoroughly vetted, and not only for their scope, but their price. Any package that we're putting forward or for approval today has been compared, and when we compare them, we want to look at a few things. So concrete, for instance, we want to look at, make sure we've got good coverage with it. Do we have the confidence that this number is the truest number that's out there and the cheapest that it's going to be today? That's what we determined from coverage. So anything that we presented today, we have vetted. We have said, hey, this is the best price it's going to be. It's going to be cheaper today than it's ever been. They're also critical elements to our schedule. So again, with the example of concrete, our building pad is ready right now out on site. We could start concrete tomorrow. But the approval of this will let us subcontract them, start submittals, start design work on it, and hopefully get them on a schedule here soon. So that's what we want to present. Anything out of the norm, we have outliers, for instance, structural steel. We had one bid on that. That doesn't give us a good indication that that's the best price that we can possibly get for it. The price for it was tremendously over the budget that we assumed. So that also tells us there must be something that we're not seeing, something that's pushing it to a level that we have not seen these other fire stations being built for. So we know there's a way, we just have to find the way. So whenever we allocate subcontracts that we want to approve for this package versus the ones that we want to table, schedule, cost, bid coverage, everything goes into consideration with that. So what we put forward today, the $5.1 million, is a grouping of subcontractors that keeps us going on the project. If time wasn't a limit, we wouldn't put forward this 5.1 at all. We'd go back to the drawing board, we'd revise it, we'd rebid it, and then we'd start again. Unfortunately, time isn't on our side with this. We have bond language to meet in terms of completion of the project. So that's what we're working towards. So it's this delicate balance of the funding that's there plus our schedule that we are to adhere to. So in the CMAR delivery method, with public bidding laws in Oklahoma, Title 61, we are required to bid them for what they bid. We can't sit there and change numbers and do VE prior to their bid. It's against the law. So what we do as to kind of work around that and work within this GMP language, or IGMPs or lump sum conversions, they're all kind of synonymous to us. We work in many different capacities with it. But with that, we want to go in with zero contingency. And so what that ultimately does is let us evaluate savings on the subs that we are picking and utilizing today. I think the concrete contract, for instance, was around $541,000. David just came up here and showed you a few different value engineering options that will remove canopies, remove concrete, remove structures, potentially change foundations, stuff like that. That money will come from them after they're contracted. And so if you think of in terms of contingency, how that works is if they're at, let's just say $540,000 for easy math, we get a $20,000 deduct. If we're at zero contingency, We put a deduct of 20,000, we now have 20,000 in contingency. So it's a little bit of a trick of the trade to kind of get some early GMPs going, work within the bounds that we have, and value analyze as we move on down the road. So we've also allocated this $2.4 million in other packages that, as David said, large portion of that's going to come in patios, structural steel changes. Once all those changes are made, we'll be able to bid those back out. They're non-critical right now today. So we have time, and this CMAR delivery is about always kind of pushing your time and maintaining the time that you have, and pushing things that can be dealt with later. For instance, if we want to revise our paint contract, we don't have to contract that for about another 7 or 8 months before it becomes critical to the project. So we are focusing on heavy hit items, the concrete, the steel, metal panels, as it's been discussed, the roofing system, where these high dollars are. So with that, we have put forth, a lot of options. We'll continue to put forth a lot of options. I have no doubt that if we were told today we need to cut $1 million, that we can cut $1 million. It's what will that $1 million cut look like? Difficult decisions have to come with that, unfortunately, but we definitely could show you a path to get there. Would everybody like it and be able to, really, own it, over time? That's a different question. So, I guess anything else you'd like me to cover there, or any questions from anyone? Fun stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So yes, when we talk about, we can cut $1 million, we've been offered the EFS, the panel replacement, and we don't like the idea of doing that. And we've been offered the idea to go to shallow foundations, and we don't like the idea of doing that. So he'll offer things that we'll reject and or that we don't like, and that's why we're here today to talk to you. And we're like on the sunshade. Some of these are pretty easy to say, okay, we have a budget problem. Let's drop the sunshade. Let's drop the entryway. Let's reduce the patio size to about 1/3, and we can save some money there. And if we want it later, we can add it. But truth is, for the fire department to come up with the budget for that later, they're going to pick essentials over an entryway. It's a fire station. So when we take those out, they're probably always going to be out. And that's just a decision we have to make tonight on how we want to look at that. So I would open it to, this is the schedule that we have right now. But really, I'd like to have a discussion with you all, what questions you have, what you'd like to know more about as far as some of the options. I'll scroll up here to that big list. These are some of them that we're considering, and some we've actually said, do you have a number for how much contingency items we've selected? And you'll 217. So we've somehow in here, the non-green items, correct? We've selected $217,000 in savings. One is the sunshade. I know we've done that. We have not made a decision on the patio, correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about what we've selected so far on that 217?
So this 217 you're talking about, that's coming off the $1 million that we're short. So if you do those, then we're down to 750 or whatever, right?
So the 217 is really in relation to...
As long as we don't spend it on contingency also. I mean, we're just moving it around to contingency. If we need the contingency, we're still spending it.
So the 217 would come essentially from the contracted subs today. So we have a work package 1 and a work package 2 that we're proposing. The 217 would come from them. That's in an effort to rebuild contingency. Good recommendation for contingency is around 3%. 3% of this project's value is probably around $230,000. So when we go in with zero contingency, we also would want to have a prerogative to build that back up to something around that realm, just for protection. And then we're kind of already seeing it and coming out of the ground a little bit, but the main areas you want to hold contingency is when you're coming out of the ground. Never know what you'll find underground as you start digging it up, through your structural system and through your roof. Once it gets after that, finish changes, things like that are minimal to have to use contingency for, and we don't see much use in it at that point. The savings have to come in two folds. So the 230, let's just call it a goal for saving of the bid package 1 and bid package 2 subcontractors. That's where we're currently around that 217 range if everything is executed. Now, a lot of this stuff is estimates. We've got a lot of groundwork to do to understand the real costs of a lot of these things to process, the contingency modifications for that to go back into contingency. That's one piece of it. The next piece is what are we going to gain from these packages that we're revising and putting out for rebid. Now, let's take the patio, for instance. That includes a multitude of subs to build the patio, from your concrete sub to your structural steel sub to your roofing sub with it. Those are split right now between packages, right? We are recommending approval of concrete, which their savings would come from over here. On the flip side, we're not recommending approval of structural steel. Those revisions and savings will come in a bid package as it's rebid. So it's this balance of kind of maintaining and managing two different sides of the coin with the savings. So there's a savings over here through everybody who's been approved through the 5.1 and the 1.3 to save around $200,000 to $230,000. The rest of it is going to have to come from our revisions to the packages that have yet to be bid through redesign.
Candy, can you explain what we're looking at on this chart or table? What's the green box?
That is the 6 items that are here in the top right. So these are items that were advertised as alternates. And that when we looked at the results, we said, yes, we'll remove the entry element. Yes, we'll remove the 4-fold doors and use instead the normal overhead doors, et cetera. So after this work package came in, Aaron assembled a long list of options. It included the advertised alternates, plus some of the alternates he included in the advertisement, which are the CM alternates. And all the other items are his ideas for what he calls VE, value engineering savings.
Okay, so why is the generator a black number and everything else is red numbers?
So it is a plus, but it is less of a plus than the 300 kilowatt generator plus the BMS.
Okay.
So it is a savings in disguise.
Okay. So we're going to still have a reserve generator, but we're not going to cover it, so it's going to expose to the elements.
Correct. The generator and enclosure item, do you see that there?
Yes, that's what I'm
correct.
talking about. So we're
Yes.
going to take the enclosure away that would protect it from the sun, but we're going to, I assume, have it sitting outside.
Yes.
Does
The-
not go over the top, and it saves.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
More of a decorative.
Okay, thank you.
It's like our generator at the water plant. It's just, you can see it from the road.
Vice Mayor, if I may, Candy, as a point of clarification, so this slide is all of the items that were bid, and the next slide are the proposed work package 2. I'm just want to make it clear what you're asking of council to approve this evening, the 19 items.
What we need to be, my recommendation tonight is about approving Crossland's award of the 19 trades, these trades, so that we can move on. If we don't award these trades, and Crossland has evaluated these to say, these are good numbers, we need them to move on to meet schedule, and they are recommending them. So we have, in the bid law, we have to do this award within 30 days or by agreement, 45 days. And if we wait until the next council, we miss it. So tonight, the only recommendation I have is to approve Crossland's award of these contracts for work package 2. The rest of it is, we can come back, if you guys want us to look for more funding to be able to handle some of this, we'll come back with that information. If you want to tell us, do not exceed 7.9 million for construction, IGMP we have now, we will come back to you and tell you what that $1 million less fire station looks like.
But I just want to be clear that I'm understanding, there's no ramifications to us making the approval of this tonight for that, if we came back and said we wanted a $1 million less fire station.
There's always a path. So approving these does not approve any money towards us. It approves our ability to contract these on your behalf, basically. which, the ones I'm looking at, building concrete and masonry, are very critical to our schedule right now. So this would allow us, at our risk, obviously, we're not getting any money allocated out of this package at all. It is all in an effort to maintain schedule. So allowing these allows us to lock them in for this. That does not mean our work is done. We can still remove dollars from these individual items.
So you still have the opportunity to modify the bid? Is that maybe the
Correct. But due
language?
to Oklahoma bidding laws, we have to do that after award.
It's modifying a contract.
Understood. This is our first time going through the CMAR process, so we're trying to understand kind of all the mechanisms of that. We appreciate and really value your expertise explaining it to us. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard from everybody except the fire department. Chief Esri, do you have anything you would like to say?
Vice Mayor, councilors, Terry Esri, Fire Chief, thank you for your time today, and we wish we weren't having this conversation tonight. But
So do we.
Yeah, but we are. And just to give you some historical context, originally the concept for this fire station was about 18,500 square feet. And with a bond package of about $9 million, we knew that wasn't going to happen. Even if prices hadn't skyrocketed, it just wasn't feasible. So we started backing off of the things that we just needed, not necessarily wanted, but needed to make it a modern fire station and really focus on the health and wellness of our firefighters and to make sure that they're ready to respond to the next emergency, which could be to my house or to your house, right? And that's where we came up with the 15,000 square feet roughly. And there's some features on the building that I just want to kind of point out. The sunshade on the front, can we run fire trucks out of there? Can we go save lives and fight a fire? Absolutely, we can. But to me, and this is just speaking from fire chief, to me, it really makes it pop. There's no artwork out there. The only part of the landscaping that we have kept is the grass and the irrigation, all the trees and shrubs. We cut those because they're not absolutely necessary for this thing to work. So I would hate to cut that because it just makes it pop and it makes it pleasing to the eye. Again, it's totally functional without it. The patio on the south side, it serves more than just a function of recreation. It gives our firefighters a chance to come back from a call, get some fresh air, kind of recover mentally. And it's a place where they're not on display because it's going to have some privacy, essentially so they can recover and they can be ready for the next call. So yeah, it's a fun space, but it also serves a purpose for well-being and mental health as well. When we started out this, we were looking at some projects, and I know David, I got the numbers from him, and I believe it was in 2019, Tulsa built a fire station for $313 a square foot. In 2018, Edmond built one that was about the same size as what we're looking at for just a little bit under $300 a square foot. And we knew prices were going to go up. There was no question. So our thought process was we would add essentially a 1% increase per month up until where we're at, which that, 48 months from 2019 puts us at about 50% increase. And if we were looking at the numbers from the Tulsa Fire Station, so you go from $313 to a little under $500 a square foot. Still very, very expensive, but we're looking at prices that are close to $600 a square foot. In fact, Edmond just, their low bid on their new station was around $700 a square foot. So again, we wish we weren't here, but we are. And, advocating for the fire department, I absolutely want the front entry and I want all the nice stuff, but it's not 100% necessary. But if there's anything that we can do to hold on to some things that really gives us some character and really sets it apart and really sets us up for the next 50, 100 years, I would greatly appreciate it.
And I'll add a little bit from a city management standpoint as we look at this project. I mean, obviously we've been working closely with Candy and Terry on this project. Tonight we wanted to tell you first, just remind everyone listening and everyone here the great challenge that's ahead of us, right? For not to make excuses, but because of the inflation increased cost in the square footage that we need to meet, according to the ballot language, we have a great challenge in front of us. Those essential items, like such as the deep foundation, we've chose metal panels instead of EFIS because of the ongoing maintenance issues that you might come into. We're trying to design this fire station now to be 100% functional, to serve the life safety in our community, and be something that will last 100 years and be something we're all proud of. And so we're committed to the process. We know there's going to be a funding gap, and we're going to continue to reduce cost as we go along, make good decisions, like Terry said, and trying to bring that the patio to maybe cutting 2/3 out to where there still is some shaded area for the firemen to relax after their calls. We're still committed to the process. We know there's gonna be a funding gap. We're looking at, Christy Cluck couldn't be here tonight for health reasons, but we're looking at where do we prioritize funds that we have. We have some funds in the rural fire fund that goes to usually to purchasing rural firefighting equipment such as trucks. Again, this fire station number 2 is going to be the place where we house a lot of our rural firefighting equipment. So there are some eligible funds there. We have some capital projects like city roofs, looking at park items like the bathroom and couch. I mean, we have a lot of some funds set aside for capital projects here in the city, and so it's just saying, okay, where do we want to reprioritize some of those funds? But we're committed to the project. We're going to finish the project tonight. We're awarding the critical components that we need to award, and then we will continue to bring this conversation back to council. So that's kind of just a general overview.
Okay. Counselors, any more discussion or questions for staff?
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more.
No worries.
So explain to me the bond language that we're dealing with right now that's critical for us.
So what I know about the bond language, and Brady's going to have to fill in here for me, maybe Chief Esri, is it's a certain square foot, no less than 15,000 in a certain area north of McElroy on Western, a number of bays, and some requirements there that we can't vary from. Is there anything else that was real specific?
No.
It was the site, the square foot, the number of bays.
Yeah, there's timing in all bonds.
Oh, timing, yes. We have to be so much spent by a certain month, and the $9 million.
Okay, thank you.
Any other final questions?
Does staff have a recommendation for us tonight?
Staff recommends a motion to approve the award by Crossland Construction Company of contracts for the work package 2 accepted trays for a total of $4,243,162. And the work package 2 accepted trades are listed there.
Counselors?
I move approval of the staff recommendation.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote. The vote of 4-0, that measure is approved. Thank you. This takes us to item number 8, resolutions. Item 8A is resolution number CC-2024-6, a resolution of the City of Stillwater establishing the city's identity theft prevention policy. Ms. Carnley.
The city's utility billing division is subject to red flag laws that require the city to develop an identity theft prevention program. The city currently has procedures, training, and oversight implemented, and this resolution is formal adoption of that policy. Dana Maddox, the Utility and Building Services Director, is here to answer any questions you may have.
Counselors, any discussion or motion?
Motion to adopt resolution CC-2024-6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The vote of 4-0, that resolution is adopted. Item 8B, resolution number CC-2024-7, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Stillwater, Oklahoma, authorizing the Child's Law Firm, PLLC, to file an action against UBC Precast in Idaho Corporation, and Greg Hoskins, the general manager and owner of UBC Precast, and any other responsible persons or entities for breach of contract, unjust enrichment, and any other cause of action deemed necessary and appropriated by council to recover funds paid by the city for a prefabricated bathroom structure that was ordered but never delivered, and authorizing the city manager to take all actions reasonably necessary to effectuate the provisions of this resolution.
I requested consideration of this resolution for the council to authorize Child's Law Firm to file suit. This is arising out of the city's award of a bid to the contractor for the purchase of prefabricated restrooms for Couch Park. The city did make progress payments to the contractor as permitted by state law. However, ultimately, the contractor failed to either deliver the restrooms or fully perform the contract. They also have not responded to our demands for repayment. So pursuing an action against the contractor to recover those funds is in the best interest of the city.
Councilors, any discussion or motion?
I move adoption of Resolution CC 2024-7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The vote of 4-0, that resolution is adopted. Takes us to item number 9, reports from officers and boards. Ms. Carnley.
A request for an executive session pursuant to 25 OS Section 307B3 of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act for the purpose of discussing the purchase or appraisal of real property.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, as Dawn mentioned earlier, please save the date and join us for community meetings to discuss the new animal welfare facility. We have 2 meetings scheduled in March, in person and online. The in-person meeting will be Tuesday, March 26th at 5:30 in the Dining and Event Hall at Stillwater Community Center. The online meeting will be Thursday, March 28th at 5:30 p.m. We want to hear your voice and discuss the future of Stillwater's animal welfare and what's best for our residents and animals. So for more information, go to stillwaterok.gov/animal welfare.
Brady, how will people access the online meeting?
We will be posting the details on that website at stillwaterok.gov. And we'll be, have the links there that everybody can join.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Counselor Hawkins.
Did you know that we have a citizen request tracker on our new website? This is an avenue for residents to report concerns regarding drainage and flooding, streetlight outages, trash collection issues, animal control requests, and much more. Please consider using this system to let our employees know concerns that need to be checked out and possibly repaired. To get started, go to stillwaterok.gov/report.
Thank you.
The annual Trash Off event to help keep Stillwater beautiful will be Saturday, March 30 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Volunteers will meet at the Couch Park Pavilion at 1270 East Alcott Drive. Since work gloves, safety vests, and trash bags will be provided, volunteers are asked to RSVP by March 28th by calling 405-533-8482. This is an opportunity to earn community service hours if needed. Additional information is available online at stillwaterok.gov/trash off.
Thank you. Counselor Hardin.
If you're looking for an environmental friendly way to save money on your water bill, you may want to purchase a rain barrel through the City of Stillwater. These barrels capture water from your roof and store it for future use. Using rain barrels also helps reduce stormwater pollution by minimizing the amount of stormwater runoff that leaves the site. Mail-in order forms are due by April 26th. Online orders are due by April 28th. For more information, visit stillwaterok.gov or email to Zach, and this is ZACK.Henson, HENSON, at stillwater.org. You can also call 405-533-8436.
Thank you. And I will remind everybody, I see Counselor Hawkins got her sticker on already, that tomorrow is an election day, Tuesday, March 5th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Voters need to go to their normal polling location to participate. Please note the new polling location for Precinct 4, that was previously World Harvest, is now at Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 is located at 416 East Lakeview Road. This will be the temporary polling location until a permanent site can be acquired. For more information and for sample ballots, go to votepaynecounty.com or www.elections.ok.gov. With that, we don't have any further meetings today, but we do have an executive session. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, we will now enter executive session. There we are. Is there a motion to reconvene from an executive session?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. With a vote of 4-0, we are reconvened from executive session. Is there any action from the executive session?
A motion to direct staff to proceed as discussed and authorize city manager to execute contract to effect the purchase of property under discussion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. The vote of 4-0, that motion is approved. I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Please vote. Throwing me off. The vote of 4-0, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.